Hey guys, so welcome back to Pritchett Power Bar Talk.
Yep.
So we are finally got our first guest tonight. So you see her with us. We have Ricky Larocca from California. So Ricky is not only a pro strongman, he's a trainer on multiple levels. He's trained everyone from housewives to pro athletes, pro football players, pro strongmen, myself, Bubba. I mean, the list goes on. But he is literally, he's family. You know, I consider Ricky one of the original Iron Outlaws, along with myself, Patrick Holloway, Eric Patterson. Like, you're looking at the original Outlaws. And he's been a huge help and inspiration on my career over the years. And he has a pretty phenomenal story of his career into strongman, things that, it changed the path of his life. You know, and so it'll be interesting. I think you guys are going to get interested in hear Ricky's story. And so we're going to kick this off. So, Ricky, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, what's up, brother? Thanks for having me on, brother.
Oh, man, we've been excited for this one. So, I guess to start off, man, you know, let's start off like, you know, who's Ricky Larocca? You know, what made you who you are, man, and like, you know how you got into strength and.
I've been into this shit my whole life. When I was young, my father was a big influence on me. And, you know, he always wanted me to be some type of athlete. You know, he's always pushed me to be a monster since I was young. And pushed me hard, but, you know, he didn't know all the ways to go about it.
Yeah.
You know, we would train football training, we would train baseball. It's always pushing, doing push-ups, practicing fighting every day. And then when I got about third grade, he bought me a little weight set.
Right.
And didn't know what I was doing, but, you know, I do a lot of curls and, you know, the neck shoulder pressing and stuff like that. And I kept lifting as I got older. And I kind of lost my way when I was about maybe 12, 13 years old. Started getting in trouble, going to juvenile halls and back and forth in the system. When I was 17 years old, I caught a case where I went away for maybe just under a year, and then I came back home right before I was 18. Then a couple months later, I caught a second case, another stabbing case, and I got sent to the penitentiary. Well, I caught him when I was 18, and I ended up going to San Quentin when I was 19.
Man.
And so I got sent to Jamestown, and I really wanted to make the most out of my situation. You know?
Yeah.
When I was on the streets before, I lost my focus, you know, and I had addictions. I was really addicted to gangbanging. I was really addicted to doing drugs. But when I got to prison, like, I changed my addictions, and my addiction came to like making progress in my life.
Yeah.
First off, so I started training. We didn't have weights. I did a lot of body weight exercises, and I was part of there was a group of us. We were all islanders. And as I started to do more time, I was able to get more responsibility, and I was able to set up the workouts for us. We had a mandatory workout we had to do once a day.
Oh, nice.
And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed helping people make progress in their lives and shit. And when I was able to find a parole, I was like, I wanted to go and keep doing what I was doing. I wanted to keep helping people. I wanted to keep making progress in my life.
Yeah.
So I got into a gym and hooked up with a Romanian bodybuilder who helped me out. His name was Emmerich Delsic, I think that's how you say his last name. And I did the whole bodybuilding thing, just hanging out, trying to learn what they were doing and how it worked.
Yeah.
A little bit. And then I got just on a fluke, ended up being a power lifter and doing the whole powerlifting thing, and got a good coach. My coach is John Ford. I went through the APF. I really enjoyed it, but the whole time he used to always tell me, he used to say, this powerlifting isn't for you. You should be training for strongman.
Yeah.
But at the time I watched it on television, and I didn't think I had like the conditioning for it. It looked painful. I just didn't understand it at all. But as I kept doing powerlifting and it was great, but I wanted to learn more. And finally was able to get into a competition. There was one that was going on at my gym. And I didn't really train for it. I went the weekend before to see what the implements looked like, and I flipped a tire one time.
Okay.
And then I went into the competition, and I did fairly well. And from there, I got into a strongman crew. And I think maybe in our time, it was a little bit different than it is now. I think back in the day, this was maybe, I don't know, 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the internet was.
There wasn't really a thing. It wasn't a thing back then, yeah.
Onto this team. You had to pay for it, but most people didn't get accepted onto this team. And they would beat you up. They would talk down to you. They wanted to watch you break. They wanted to break you and get you out of there. And I wasn't going to break. It really made me feel the good part about prison.
Yeah.
It made me feel like there was something that people were giving something to me, and I was able to be a part of something, but I wanted to give something more back. I wanted to give more back to the team, more back to the sport than it was given to me. And I don't know, that's how it was for me. It was John Anderson. I don't know if you guys ever have had a chance to see him compete much, the people watching this, but John Anderson was our team captain, and there was no one in this world that trained harder.
Yeah, John was an animal in his era, yeah.
Pushed past his limitations and pushed me past his limitations. Pushed my limitations.
Absolutely.
Just ungodly levels. I mean, he had blown up. Just for an example, at one point he was in Russia. I think it was Latvia or somewhere out there. And he was wrestling in a sand pit as one of the events. And he ends up blowing out his knee in the sand pit.
Damn.
He was suplexing somebody. I think his foot got caught in the sand. It blew it out. So he came back to America, got operated on, and we start making this program to start coming back.
Yeah.
So we start off by doing body weight squats, squatting onto a tire, doing 100 reps at a time. Well, within like 4 weeks, what we did was we started working at a bar, squatting 100 reps at a time. Then we went to 95 pounds, doing 100 reps at a time. Next week was 135 pounds. I ended up making up to 185 pounds or 225. I think I got 225 and he got 275 the next week. And I remember going through these reps with him, and I couldn't even comprehend how he was able to do it. He's coming back from this knee surgery.
Yeah.
I was going through these reps with him, and I remember getting in the high 40s, and I remember getting nauseous and starting to throw up on myself and going to take a step back into the rack, and he grabs me and he says, your knees will blow out before you give up on this set.
You will finish. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you're motherfucking right.
Yeah.
You're motherfucking right. And that's what the fuck I did, because when you have somebody else there with you, when your team is with you that fucking strong, you don't want to be the weak to
No, that's when good training partners can really make you.
Yeah.
They that push you get when you want to shut down, and they help you push through. Then you do it for them on the days they want to shut down. That's part of a good crew. I think that gets lost nowadays. What I've seen a little bit.
100%.
Yep.
That's the thing. Somebody could walk in and be like, okay, I came from the Olympic weightlifting program. I can jerk 500 pounds, and they could go off and show their big lift.
Yeah.
Well, really, that doesn't help anybody else. I would rather have somebody in there who could go and bust their ass and struggle to get fucking 5 reps with 135 pounds.
Yeah.
But struggle, fight, battle, because that fires up the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Rather than have somebody who could go up and hit that one 500-pound jerk, and that's all they could do. And they don't push no harder, and they don't want to show their ass for the team.
Yeah.
You gotta fucking go out there, go all out, and be ready to fucking lose your shit for the team.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't want to push through. Yeah. It's definitely, and that's kind of what we're going to get into on this like doing these podcasts is into mindset stuff, and then you kind of touched on it there and it starts kind of with a good crew, kind of building that mindset. And so one thing I want to get into it, you did some very incredible lifts, in your time. I mean, I know, years ago when you came train with me, like you destroyed every record we had at the time, man. I mean, you were I mean, top of your game, ready to head out. And I know you've had injuries like we've all had over the years, and then I'll let you kind of touch on those, and then we'll get to kind of the injury that's really kind of changed the course of your life. But I got to tell you, man, before we get into that, because you touched on your childhood and kind of like some of the shit you went through and whatnot. And one thing I've always admired and loved about you is no excuses, man. Like you've had, most anybody would like, I can't do this because of where I came from, or they have excuses, and you've never had any excuse for anything, when you've had plenty you could use, right? But you don't any excuse, and all you've done is like you took a negative with going away into a positive and learn how you wanted to help people train and get better, and you've become a phenomenal trainer. Like I said, you've trained everyone from housewives to 49ers, and pro strongman. You train them all, and that's really huge, and it's an inspiration, that you took that negative and spun it into a positive and never let it hold you back, and you just went on.
I think it's like much like with the strongman team, like we used to always say, quitting is a cancer, right?
Yeah.
That shit spreads. It spreads like a motherfucker. So you have to cut it out from the beginning. As soon as you see somebody quit, getting out of there. Because you don't want, it's not because of anything else, but it makes other people want to quit. If they see somebody quit, it makes it easier for them to quit.
Yep.
So you can keep your team strong. Even in how I train people now, I have people I have pro athletes, I have people in technology that are trained to changing the whole world, trying to really change the whole world right now, and I limit who I take on only so I can keep this positive energy around me.
Yeah.
If I be negative around me, maybe it'll come to me. So I would rather be by my damn self than be around some negative or soft type people.
It's just
made smaller, 5'6", 100 pounds, but they push and they want to fight and they want to make progress in their life, whether it's spiritual, physical, anything.
I think that's such a huge point, I mean, and that goes to like not only like for your crew to like, anybody you keep around you. You don't want that negative energy, it drags you down. You want people that are going to push hard and are positive and looking forward, so it's a great point. Yeah.
And I take strongman I'm sorry about that. I take strongman much like prison in the way strongman, you could really tell what somebody's about, right?
Yeah.
You could, like in prison, if we're all in prison together and there's only 5 of us and we're going to fight 100 people over there.
Yep.
Who's going to come outside that yard for unlock, and who's going to be the 5 to walk out, or all 5 of us going to walk out? And if we do, win, lose, or draw, but we don't quit, we're like, oh, fuck, these are soldiers. These are people I can trust for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about strongman. Like, when you see the people that really dig, that really fight and push through it day in, day out, whatever's going on in their personal life, they keep getting through. You can't help but respect those people in.
Yeah, well, because this sport will bring out any weakness. If you have it, it will bring it out. Because this sport will break you down, not only physically but mentally. So if you're not tough, it will bring out your weaknesses. So you'll get exposed real fast. So it's so true. And when you come to like a crew. You want guys that are going to go to war with you.
100%. Yeah. Like, that's the greatest part about having Bubba out. Like, Bubba has brought a different energy to the crew. Like, everybody has to be pushed harder now.
Yeah.
Because Bubba will come back and he will smash you. He will embarrass you. He don't give a fuck. He does not shut down.
Yeah.
He will keep going and going until we
Yeah.
kicking his cage, and he's ready to fucking gonna unlock that cage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, you know, I tell people, like, that's something you either have or you don't. Like, you can't teach that. It has to be a fire you have. You know, you can teach techniques and all that stuff, but you can't teach that fire and mindset. You know, you can try to maybe kind of hone it in if somebody kind of has it, you know, but you can't teach it to someone that doesn't have it.
Yeah, you can't teach love for strongman.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, for me, like, I had a big fire in me, and in the beginning, it actually almost threw me off. You know, I used to, and that was part of my problem. I would get angry, you know, I'd be quick to fight or do whatever else, and get into trouble. And the same thing on the strongman field. I would get so amped up. I would be so angry. Sometimes I'd throw myself off. And what I ended up doing was I took this course by this dude named Michael Edelstein. He was some psychologist, and he taught this course, repetitive emotional behavior therapy, and they teach it to like FBI agents and shit when they're in shootouts to stay calm during the shootout.
Yeah.
And it taught me how to stay calm while I feel like I'm in this world of fucking rage and insanity, but I'm still calm and got my eyes on the target and know what I'm going to do. It's like a fight. Like I see before he's about to move, I see where he's about to go to. And I could still feel it. I'm still in that zone. Even though I'm fired up, I'm still breathing and I'm calm and control. I feel like that's where I'm at my best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you very much have to have that dial and know when to turn that dial up and when to back it back down, especially when you start to get into competitions and long competitions and like competitions like World's Strongest Man that are so long, and you got to dial it up for an event. And then you got to have an event till the end of the day, so you got to dial it back down. You can't be amped all day, you know. So you really have to have that.
That's the most challenging spot is when you get onto those television shows and you're waiting for the camera crew and all that shit to be ready, and you're still trying to stay fired up but staying calm and not burning out.
It really takes some getting used to it on those shows to be able to dial it up and dial it back down, and then all of a sudden, okay, we got to go again and dial it back up. That way you're not wore out by the end of the day. Yeah, absolutely. So man, let's get into a little bit of injuries, and then let's get into kind of the injury, you know.
Okay. In strongman, I've had several injuries. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There was one time when I go out to, I forget if I was in Georgia or Carolina. It was Strongman Across America. It was like the ASC tour they were doing or some shit.
Yeah.
You know, I went out. I got called to go in on like a last minute thing or something like that. So I got in the last minute. Wasn't really prepared for it for the events.
Yeah.
I was in good shape. I was in condition for it. I just wasn't ready for the events. First event of the day, I think it was like a yoke run for a certain amount of feet, 80 or 100 feet or something, and you pick up a block or a shield or something and run it back. As soon as I picked up the block, I felt all the tendons and like 3 of my fingers just blow out. And I thought, oh, my first event of the day. I went all the way across the country for this shit. I was like,
that sucks.
I couldn't close my hand. It wasn't working, but I was like, I'll figure my way out of it.
Yeah.
And I go to the log. I was able to clean it up one time, get a couple of reps. I dropped it. So I was in the middle of the pack. Came to the Conan's wheel, did pretty good. Then it came to the farmer's walk. I was like, damn. It wasn't super heavy, but no one was finishing it. Everybody was kind of getting stuck at the halfway point.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I can pick this thing up. And if I do, I definitely can't turn with it.
Yeah.
My hand is so bad. And one of the other competitors came up to me and said, nobody's finishing this, Rick. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it past the halfway mark. I said, really? My hand is tore up. I'm going to be lucky to get to the halfway mark. So he's like, you know what? Maybe we could just kind of stop at the same place and we can call it there and we'll be even on points. And as he's telling me this, in my mind, of course, I'm like, how dare you even think of fucking saying some shit like this to me?
Yeah. Really?
Right? There is no fucking punk in me at all. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
And I remember picking this thing up, and I was so angry over that comment. And he got to that halfway part and put it down. And I remember so locked in, I hit that turn, and I was like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to be the first person to finish this thing. And I did. And I finished it, and I was like, but my hand was like completely felt destroyed. But
Yeah.
it's like, shit, now I'm in a good place. I could actually tear some shit up now.
Yeah, good points now.
We're going into the next event or whatever, and it's stone for height. And, you know, I'm a short guy compared to in strongman. You know, I'm 6 foot. But I got a little pop in me, so I thought I'll be able to do all right. On the first stone, I feel like my finger couldn't even hold on to the stone. But somehow I keep managing to fucking go up and stay in it. Now it was pretty high, it was about over my head. And as I go to pick this stone up, I'm sweating. And as I try to stand up with the pick, it slips out on me.
No.
Now I am just so upset at myself. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to quit on myself this deep into the game. So I pick it back up. I come back over the top, and I said, I'm just going to go all out with this. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to press it up there. I'm going to get it. As soon as I threw it up there, I must have slipped, or my hand slipped off of that hand. As soon as I had it over my head and I was on my tippy toes, that stone came down and crushed my foot
Oh.
and destroyed all the cartilage in my foot.
That was in 2009, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my training partners was there with me, Rod Muhlenberg, and the ambulance people come with me and they're like, we got to take you to the hospital. I was like, I'm not being fucking taken to the hospital at a strongman contest. I'm going to rep our crew hard, you know.
Yeah.
There is no punks in our crew. I'm staying here, right? And I didn't, you know. We went to Waffle House that night. I couldn't put a shoe on because I had blood coming out of my shoe. My foot was so swollen, so they said you have to have shoes to go into the Waffle House.
Yeah.
So I tied the strings around my ankles and just had my foot hanging off from the side and went into Waffle House and, you know.
So if I remember right, the first time I met you was in 2009 in Dallas at the Pro-Am. You had just broke your foot before that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, because you went to Dallas because you were going to compete, but you had just broke your foot. The day before, you were testing events. You were going to try to compete with the broken foot, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do a couple of events before
Yeah.
they pulled me out of the car.
They finally like, dude, you're done, and they shut you down. Yeah.
Were you just gonna do it barefoot?
Oh no! At that point, my foot was super swollen.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was probably, I don't remember how far out it was from there, but it was my first time doing a lot of those. Like I was able to pick it, and I was just figuring I could try to just outwheel through the pain. I really enjoyed some of those big shows. So I wanted to compete and get it in.
Yeah, and I tell you, man, like you're meeting you there that first time, you had the broken foot, you were still trying to push through. It's that really, you know, like, man, this guy's badass. You know, I respect, I got a lot of respect for you, you know, because like I can see there was no quit in you, you know, you weren't crying about it, you were still happy, you were in a great mood, you know, like you're barely walking around with the broken foot, you know. I'm like, I just right away, me having that similar mindset, it just instantly like, all right, like, you know, it just clicked, and I think that's kind of when the friendship. And then we ended up competing together at the Fit Expo and everything after that, you know, and then training together. But like that initial, like kind of like he's got the same mindset, you know, that initial spark on, you know, man, I got a lot of respect for this guy.
You know, I actually remember you from a show before that one. I had watched you compete where I was coaching a couple of my people at.
Yeah.
This was, I think, in San Diego. I think you won like every event of the day.
Yeah.
And I remember watching you compete, and when you competed, you could see your move, and you could see you get into this cold, dark place, and you could see that focus. And that I was thinking the same thing. I was like, he gets it. There's very few people you see that really are in that.
Yeah.
You know when you see them, and you know when you're around it. There's There's something about it.
Yeah, I think if you have it too, you recognize it in someone else pretty quick, because it's rare. I believe it's a rare thing, that people have that, even at our level.
Travis is just, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Omar, same. I mean, a lot of guys, elite strongman, it's kind of what it takes to do that, And that's going we're getting, in the mindset of this, because, there's tons of people that, work, a hard job. They go to the gym at the end of the day. They have the discipline and the mindset to do that, or they get up in the morning and train. And then I believe, athletes, they take that to another level. And then elite athletes, for what we do and have done, go to another level yet. And then there's even levels to that where they're, I've seen exceptional athletes have their first injury, and it's kind of career ending. They don't really have the mindset to push through it and come back, And then there's other ones of us that we keep running through block walls, and we never think about ever stopping, and that's, like I said, I've had that. I saw that in you years ago. You've obviously had that. I mean, what you've pushed through over the years is amazing, And I'll let you get into kind of like 2011, you really peaking, coming into your own on strength really well. I mean, I remember you came out and trained with me 2 weeks before that big show in Canada in Gatineau. And, I mean, destroyed. I mean, I think you pulled way over 1,100 pounds on my frame. You did like a 1350 yoke. I mean, you were killing us. I mean, at the time, I mean, you were so far ahead. Like, oh man, you were ready to smash that show. And then I was getting like, what happened? What was that show? I know, it was Hugo Gerard's show in Canada, and let you like how that show went and how things have went since then.
So, strongman to me has always been about like respecting my elders, and the ones who kind of paved the way for all of us.
Yeah.
And so I always thought the world of Hugo Gerard.
Yeah.
And to have a chance to go compete at his shows and all that, that was just, it meant more to me than money or being on television and shit like that. I want to be able to learn from the elders in the sport. I want to learn as much as I can about this whole game, whether it be strongman, weightlifting, powerlifting, all that shit. I love that shit. So to have a chance to go compete in Canada was the shit. I think I'd been there a time or two before that and really enjoyed myself out there. And this competition was North America's Strongest Man, and which is kind of like a USA versus Canada type thing. And I go out there, I felt good going into it, but I felt banged up. I was doing a lot of shows back to back. I had a lot of helping people get ready for competitions and other things. I was probably doing a little bit too much. And I had actually just started dating my wife at that point, like 2 weeks before the competition.
Wow.
3 weeks before the competition. And I go out there. The first event was a frame carry, I believe. And it was some of the implements in Canada, they're all great implements, but it's just a little bit different than I was accustomed to.
A little different,
That's how strongman is. I picked up the frame. I started going fast. It felt good. Then all of a sudden, I felt one of the handles come forward, and my knee buckled. Right from that point in my ear, I heard the pop of my knee. I knew I blew something out.
Yeah.
But I heard the footsteps of, I believe it was Chad Coy behind me. And I heard his footsteps getting closer. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to put more weight on my other side to pick this back up and so I could go try to beat him.
Yeah.
And I did, and I picked it back up, and I felt it popping when I picked it back up. And so I go and finish, get as far as I could, and got in a good place. And my knee started swelling up pretty bad. I believe it was my right knee at the time. And the next event was an arm-over-arm truck pull, like, when you're receiving truck pull, arm-over-arm. And every time I would push off, I just felt like my knee was just destroying itself inside. But, you know, it was a team competition for the U.S., so I really wanted to represent hard. And I was thankful to get the invite from Hugo, and I wanted to make a good impression. So I kept pushing through that shit, and I got to the event. And then the next event was a circus dumbbell. And I wasn't much of a push presser. When it came to like a single dumbbell, I was big into jerking, push jerk. So when I went to dip down and jump underneath it, my knee had buckled. And that's when I started realizing it was worse off than I thought. Like, at that point, I knew it was
something serious.
I couldn't stabilize it all on it. So I bombed on that event. And next is a wheelbarrow carry. So it's kind of a funny looking object. They put like these metal plates on top of it and load it up. And they call out some crazy weights that it's loaded to, but I don't know how much weight is in hand, but it didn't feel super heavy at first. I think we started somewhere at 900 or 1100, something like that. And the first run, I remember picking it up, and as soon as the weight felt light as I picked it, as I took my first step or two, I knew that I was going to go down hard that day.
Yeah.
It was really bad. So then I go to my second attempt, and I take another run, and I go talk to our coach at the time, and I told him, I said, hey, I think my knee's about to blow out right now. And he's like, well, do you think you could get one more lift in for us? It'll help our team points if you get one more.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, yeah, of course I can get one fucking more. You know, it's not even an issue.
Yeah.
So as I go in that time, they let us strap in for it. I strap in, and I just, from kind of dipping down and strap in, I felt it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to try to put more pressure on my other leg. As I stood up, I felt both my legs, my kneecaps, pop. And I go to take a step, and then I guess what happened was my kneecaps had popped off first, and then my right quad had become detached and rolled up, and my left quad torn in half through the muscle belly.
Man.
It was
Massive injury.
I felt a lot of pain in my life. You know, I've been through some things, but this was a different level, and it was tough because we were like at a hot air balloon festival or something. So it took about an hour for the ambulance to come get me. I get to the hospital. There was a problem with the language. Took another couple hours before I was able to grab like some aspirin or something.
Yeah.
And but the team took care of me. They got me back to my hotel that night. They stayed up with me, and they got me back to the airport the next day. First thing I did was I got taken back to General Hospital in San Francisco. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
At the time, I was living in Oakland, but my now wife, she lived in San Francisco, so we went to San Francisco General. And at first, they didn't realize, and I walked into the hospital. I was still able to walk somehow.
Yeah.
So as I walked into the hospital, and they gave me an x-ray, and they said I was okay. So I walked out of there. And what was happening, I was at my wife's house, and I would stand up, and all of a sudden I would just fall over.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what was going on. So I go back into the hospital, and then they take whatever, MRI or whatever, and that's when they tell me I had all these injuries.
Oh, man.
So I go in, and I get the surgeries to repair them, and maybe that was like a Friday. By Monday or Tuesday, I'm back home. By the next Friday, I was sweating, I was shaking, I was throwing up, I couldn't eat, I didn't know what was wrong with me. But there was pus coming out from my knee. So they bring me back to the hospital, and they said, we have to do an emergency surgery, you have a bad infection inside of your knee. knew I was about to die. I knew it. And I woke up and I tell the nurse, I said, you got to go get me tested. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong. And he said, no, this is what happens after you have this surgery for your infection. You just feel bad. And I told him, I said, no, I am going to fucking die. And, if I'm going to die, I don't give a fuck. If you don't give me a test right now, I will beat your motherfucking ass in this hospital. I don't give a fuck. I ain't got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I know I'm fucking dying. And all I want you to do is test me.
Yeah.
So they went and checked, they did an ultrasound or something on my left leg, and they realized I was clotted. They did an ultrasound from my waist to my knee, and it was basically one big blood clot. So they gave me an emergency surgery. They put like this rotor-rooter machine inside of me, took the clots out. I got released from the hospital, I believe, on Monday. On Friday, by the next Friday, I was sick again. Went back to the hospital. They checked my leg again. Realized, the clots had grown back. And also that they never looked on my other leg, my right leg, and realized that leg was clotted out. So we go back in. We take the clots back out of both legs. This is like on Friday night. By Monday night, my clots have grown back again. And now we realize there's a more serious problem going on.
Yeah.
And this repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. We put a filter inside of me to keep the clots from coming up. We put it like right below my lungs, but then I started growing clots north of the filter. So we had to take my filter back out. And then we realized I had, I guess we call it a disease it's a version of anti-phospholipid syndrome. Meaning my body continuously grows blood clots. And the reason why mine's a little bit different than anti-phospholipid syndrome is because I've been growing clots while on my blood thinner.
Oh, wow.
Now I'm over 50 surgeries in.
Man.
Most of them are from taking out clots and also from infections. The clots cause my body not to circulate great, which causes a lot of infections I constantly am having to deal with. But, it was part of the game. I fought through it. I try not to let it slow me down. I've had prosthetics at points. No, I had to get my leg amputated. I'm sorry. I ended up having to get my leg amputated because my leg was infected. And
That was probably about, 2015 when they finally had to have the amputation?
and bigger, and you've seen it, brother. It was started turning green, and
Yeah.
the leg was green, and it was oozing out everywhere I went. And I wasn't gonna let that be an excuse to me. It just meant I had to turn my shit up another notch. It was a battle for me inside. It was like nothing else mattered. It was a battle between me and this thing. Who was going to punk out first? I wasn't going to do it. I would die before I would punk out on this thing and quit and not be there for my people, not be there for my family, not be there for my,
I tell you, man, it's been really impressive over the years. Like I said, I was already inspired by you before, and then, man, after the injury, I mean, you'd be in the hospital for like one of the clots or infections or whatever, and you'd send me a video. You're deadlifting 700 pounds for reps, and I'm like, dude, what's like the line like running from you and that guy's holding that box? You're like, oh, it's my pick line for my antibiotic. Like you would pull your deadlift and the guy would hand it back to you, and like, dude, like nobody would go to the gym after that, and like, I could have a rough day at work and be tired, and like, I don't have a fucking excuse, I gotta go get my shit in. Like it was inspiring, man. And he inspired the whole crew that way with that stuff, because you've battled this for so long, and then then in the amputation, and then it still didn't stop you. You're still deadlifting. You're breaking prosthetics because you're still deadlifting heavy, and or if you didn't have it, you had your knee on the bench and doing good mornings. you're finding a way, and not letting it beat you, like the fighter in you is very impressive, and I think, you can inspire a lot of people, with that story.
I think part of it too, brother, is like, and I still push myself super hard, but there is a point where I realized I could give more to my team through coaching at this point than I could physical. Now I can still go out there and smash. I'm still trying to get my prosthetic. I still want to deadlift 800 pounds on a prosthetic. That's still my goal, to get another prosthetic. That's what I'm trying to, that's the only thing on my mind when I lift. But the more important thing to me is working with my athletes. So,
well, I think that's the one thing we haven't fully we touched on, your training and how you inspire people and the people you train. But along with all this and your own training, you work as a trainer 15 to 16 hours a day, every day. You're up at 3 something to start training people at 4 o'clock in the morning, or whatever it takes, whatever their time is, and you're crushing it to like well, we're 8:30, quarter to 9 at night, and you just got done training people, and with through everything, I mean, I know last week you kind of had like, a little episode, and like the only thing you were worried about, we're all worried about you going, man, you need to go checked out and this and that, and you're like, oh, I got clients I already put off for tomorrow, I got to be there for them, like that was your concern of being there for your people and not your own health, you want to be there, and it's impressive, man. You deserve a lot of credit for, what you've been through, and you still push through, inspire people, the people you've trained, like I said, from average Joes to pros, all across the board, and you're there for them. It's amazing.
But I think if everybody lived by the point of like, if everybody had their tycoon, everybody was like, I'm going to give everything to my homeboys. I'm going to give everything I can to them, and I'm not going to put myself first. I'm going to put our crew first. And if your crew is solid enough, then the crew will look back out for me to make sure I don't get fucked up,
Yeah, it becomes family, it's family at that point,
and that's how we all get to that level.
For me,
Once everybody trusts in that.
Yeah.
To go all out in that. There's nothing that can stop us.
Yeah. No, I said, man, I appreciated the hell out of you over the years. You've not been a training partner, part of the crew, but a brother. You become an uncle to my kids, a mentor to Bubba, a coach to Bubba. Looking after his future. With like we've talked, like it's not about all like what he's doing now. You do his training, for him at 18 going to World's Strongest Man or something, like down the road. It's not all about immediate. Like there's a huge plan in place for what he does every day.
Like you've done a lot for me as an athlete, but more for like as a person, I've learned from you a lot, and thank you a lot for that. You've taught me a lot of things. It's been a good learning experience too, from all the things that you've taught me with lifting and stuff.
I learned from you, brother, man. I love you so much, brother. Like just watching you smash, and it's not even like the lessons that we learned in this strongman shit. It's not even like of course it's gonna help us in strongman, but I think you're gonna be able to take it to a whole different level. I think years from now we'll be laughing listening to something like this, because you're gonna blow up and you're gonna take these skills that you got, this discipline that you have. That's what strongman is, right? We compete for a reason to live a life of discipline.
Yeah.
We compete for a reason to live a life of discipline. And once you get that shit locked in and you live that life of discipline, there's nothing you can't accomplish. You can take that to whatever you want,
Yeah. After your injury in Canada, you were in the hospital, and there's a video that I found on YouTube of you in the hospital signing autographs after your injury in Canada.
Yeah, it was. We were in the hospital, and they didn't speak English,
Yeah.
and I was there for a couple hours, and nobody would. I was just on a stretcher, and nobody had talked to me.
Yeah.
And then finally, the team had come in, and then finally a couple nurses come in, and I thought, oh damn, I'm finally going to get some aspirin or a Vicodin or something. I'm
Yeah.
the worst pain in the world.
Something.
But
Like,
instead, they came in. They had photocopies of our pictures, autographs, and I was just hoping maybe if we did it, they would give me some medicine.
I get something. I
Yeah.
get,
Was that your hospital bill? Was the autographs?
So what do you like think like the mindset that it takes to push through? Because I know a lot of people don't understand it. Like if they look at like the injuries we've had, especially your injuries, man. Like anybody would go like, why do you keep doing it? What makes you keep doing it? Because they don't think some people understand like why we keep putting our bodies through the things we do. So what do you think? Like obviously, I think it's something you have, and then as more you train, like it just kind of builds like that no quit, like nothing's going to stop me, whether I've torn a bicep and walked back out for a deadlift, I've partially torn quad tendon and started the finals at World's Strongest Man and got through them, and there was quitting wasn't an option.
I think you're the best example of this, brother. Like, I try to use you I tell my clients to look at your technique on your deadlift. In certain years, you'll see a little bit of a change in the technique, and I'll show him. I said, that's because maybe he's dealing with a hamstring injury here.
We trained around injuries.
Dealing with a quad injury or a back injury, but it didn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Kept pushing. It didn't matter if you're at whatever 5 different times and whatever 5 months. It doesn't matter. Kept pushing, right? This is when you have a goal, you're set, and you really commit to getting there no matter what. Then the physical pain it's really not much. It's just a signal. It's just a signal that something is happening.
Yeah.
And you could choose to. Everybody's going to hear that signal, but how you interpret it is what makes the different level.
Yeah.
If you could hear that noise of that pain in your head, like I always say, I listen for pain. To me is like a music note, right? And I'm constantly trying to hear this music note that no one else in this world has ever heard. And that's what I'm constantly after. That's my addiction, is looking for that note that is somewhere deep in that. I don't know where that comes from, it's just, that's the way I can make progress in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just something you have that.
This is the way I can fire my people up to get fired up. This is what I got. This is what God gave me. I'm going to ride with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I always had, every injury has been, I'm going to train through this, around this, whatever it takes to get through it. Like it's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep pushing through. And I can look back and, well, was it the greatest choice? But it's the way I did it, and at the era that I was coming through, I didn't have the option, chasing the Arnold circuit, you did Columbus, 1st of March, 2 weeks later was Australia. Well, if you picked up an injury in which I did a few years, you picked up an injury in Columbus, I'm still going to Australia 2 weeks later. I've flown to Australia with the torn hamstring that I know I got a max frame deadlift there that I'm going to have to wrap it and get through on, and same thing, when I tore, I completely ruptured the bicep years ago. I looked at the calendar, I told the doc, I said, this was May, October is America's Strongest Man. I'm doing America's Strongest Man. He's like, not enough time. That I'm like, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you that's what's going to happen, And then if you have that mindset that this is not going to stop me, it won't. You're going to push through it, But if you have those doubts like, oh yeah, I guess maybe I should lay off, or I shouldn't push hard anymore, or whatever, then you're done. You can't have that doubt, because it's the same as when you're approaching a big lift. There's any doubt in your mind, it's not happening, right? You got to charge it with, I'm going to crush this, So you have to have that same mindset going through injuries. I've always felt.
And plus, like the way I think about it, bro, is like if I have leg cut off than to think in my heart that I went out like a punk and didn't do the lift and was scared to do the lift. Like, you know what? You know what it is going into it. You know, sometimes you just gotta this is who I am. I'm not gonna punk out now. I'm not gonna say like, oh, this is more valuable. Like, no, this is me. I ride.
Yeah.
That's what I always done. You know?
Knowing you the way I've known you over the years, and I know that it would hurt you more to have not went out there and quit and feel like you let your team USA down and like you kind of punked out early. It would hurt you more to do that than what this injury's done to you.
Exactly. Like, I don't, like, in my mind, I mean, I'm not like in that bad. I got a lot of surgeries and shit, and it sucks to have to crawl up and down the stairs all the time, but except for that, it ain't that fucking bad,
Yeah, I same thing. I've had a lot of injuries. I've had a lot of injuries the last couple of years have been pretty bad with my hips. But I look back on it, I for years I deadlifted every Monday. If it was a bad day, I pulled 850, and a good day I pulled 950. After working 9 hours in a fab shop, and that was it. But it was like there was no option to me. Like that's the way that I felt it needed to be done. That's the way I wanted to do it. It was almost like a drug and a high of lifting, moving that massive weight every week. And it takes its toll after a while, and my hips show it now. But I wouldn't change anything, That's
and look at what else it has caused is Bubba was around that with us for all these years and has seen that and has grown up watching this, and you can see it in him. He's the same way. Except for, he's got us to pull him back, where maybe we didn't have somebody older to pull us back, but... Yeah.
Well, I think now, knowing his age, it's like, dude, you got to pull back now. It's not worth it now. That's what I tried to tell, like last week, and he was trying to push through on stones, and I'm like, this isn't the time. You're going to have a time probably when you're getting ready for World's Strongest Man or something where, there's not an option to pull back. You got to keep pushing through, but... Right now, we got to be smart at your age and listen to the little things, and so we don't hurt your longevity. I said, because you've got time to come that they'll be hammered down and no backing off. But right now, we got to be smart. I said that's why what you write him, there's a purpose for all of it. It's not for no reason, And most of the stuff that you write him is not to make him better today or tomorrow. It's to make him better in 10 years, 5 years, so he has some good longevity in this sport, that there's an overall plan for all of it,
I think with Bubba learning the technique and being, even if he didn't win his competition last year, but just to be able to go, which he did though, but even if he didn't, to be able to go to these shows to learn this technique, to get it dialed in now. Because I think that's what the sport is lacking right now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, there's a lot of great lifters, but I think maybe the skill level compared to on some of the events isn't quite, not through everybody. I think like Martinez, I think when he won World Strongest Man, it was good. He wasn't the biggest guy.
Yeah.
But he was definitely the most skilled.
Technically, he was the best guy, yeah.
And that's what...
Yeah.
I love watching that, and that's how when I look at... I kind of see the thing of Martinez, and before that, he worked with Ode, and you see the boys before him. You see, like, Dan Harrison, or you see Kevin Nee that came through earlier on. You kind of see these different pieces come together, and then Martinez came. He kind of got it all, had the perfect technique. And when I work with Bubba, that's what I want him to be. Is there's guys who are super big and super strong, and Bubba's going to be big and strong. But I think he could also have the best skill out of anybody in the game.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal we're trying to teach him right now. We're push pressing. Pretty soon, I really want to work this push jerk.
Yeah.
I want to teach Olympic weightlifting as well as powerlifting. I want to learn every aspect of this game.
Well,
I think it's so important to have that.
Yeah, I've always said that, that, you can teach technique and everything, but it's hard to teach a guy that, because, some guys are just gamers and some aren't. Some guys know how to turn on game day, and that's very hard to teach, which naturally that's something this kid has. So, like I said, if he learns the techniques really well and's a gamer, that's a hard package to beat.
And he's better on a microphone than any of us. It's crazy.
Right? You don't get his head too big. Like, he won't fit in the doorway anymore, So I guess, to kind of change it up here before we kind of end it. So how do you feel about, like, the state of strongman right now? Like, with, some of the shows. I've had this conversation with Shaw when I was on his podcast, and kind of curious your opinion of it, like how things have changed the last couple of years, and how you feel the state of strongman is right now.
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up. Actually, that's crazy. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about this as well, and I actually like what Brian is doing with this show coming up. How he's starting to add more of the conditioning into it, because I think if you have just these same events and these short distances, of course you're going to see some big lifts, but strongman is many different disciplines. It's not just a short heavy weight. There's also, can you hit that big deadlift after you did this tire flip sled drag medley, after you did this. And like, how many, you don't even see very, very few serious tire flips anymore. And if you do, it's usually short. I think a lot of the conditioning got away from the sport, which allowed people to get bigger when you take away the conditioning part of it. But I think if you took, like, who I always looked up to Jesse Miranda. I always tried, whenever I was around him, I tried to learn everything I could from him.
Yeah.
And he used to get on me about, I could lift heavy, but we had a big 1,300-pound tire at the facility, and John had flipped it once, but I wasn't there when he did it. And Jesse had come down and trained with us, and Jesse had worked it and was able to flip it. So, of course, I'm going to go down there. I'm not going to let anybody flip our tire. I'm not going to ourselves. I went in there and flipped it. I was real proud of myself. But, he told me, that ain't shit. He's like, go take that 500-pound tire now and flip it 100 reps.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he was right. I was destroyed. It humbled me. But then, there was something about that. And John always pushed me on that. John was so big into pushing our conditioning to that, like how we push against injuries. We do the same way when we would push for this conditioning. There was been times when I was lifting out in Richmond where I lost my eyesight. And maybe it had something to do with my clotting disease.
Yeah.
But I was training so hard, I lost my eyesight for hours because I was doing this conditioning event. And they had to bring me to the emergency room because I couldn't see. And they did like this spinal tap on me to make sure that the blood clot didn't get into my brain or some shit. But this is like, I don't know, I think the sport's missing that part of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Shaw has a really good mix of events of heavy and then some heavy but endurance, like longer events. Like, it's going to be interesting him finishing with the fingers into the power stairs. I don't think.
Oh my God! Yeah, what a great mixture. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's going to be what a mix there of that. To go from fingers into power stairs after a very heavy show, after heavy logs and a max deadlift.
Stones on day one.
Yeah, stones on day one and the heavy leg press. And then now he's got something different that we haven't really seen much in strongman with, like the standing bench press, where we haven't seen a whole lot of chest strength events, So he's got, with the 8 events, like, you're going to bring out some weaknesses if guys got them, is what he's got out there. So I like to see Brian still holding some of that heavy, like last year we had a heavy yoke, and he's kind of bringing in some other mix of events too, because I feel like some of the other shows like the Arnold, have dropped down from what we once got them to.
It's not the Arnold anymore.
No.
It's completely.
Because I mean, the Arnold was the heaviest show,
Yes.
and it's not the heaviest show anymore, to me.
That was the heaviest show in the world every year.
Yeah. Yeah, and
It's
it's
just something different now.
yeah.
Since-
It was so special.
Since the start of the Arnold, it was the heaviest show of the year.
It always was, and it got heavier and heavier up until 17. I still feel was like the kind of the pinnacle of it, where we had, the two heavy yokes, where we had like the 1350, then the 1565 yoke. We had 1140 frame up the ramp. We had the max, elephant bar deadlift. We had the heavy bag throws over. We had the 430 log for reps. It was everything was a heavy show. Plus, we had like frame carry that you had to move. You had to get up the ramp, too.
But I think there's something that we see in common here with the best competition, especially like from that day. Who put on the best competition? It was Terry Todd, who had nothing but just the most respect for the strength world.
Yeah,
right? You have Brian Shaw, who was, I spent time with Brian, but he could see the respect he has for the strength world.
Yeah.
And it's more so than money or trying to get a buzz or getting more people. They truly respect the athletes in the sport. And I say the same thing about Hugo.
Yeah.
And, and Dion is a great promoter as well. And she looked out for me when I got injured and always checked on me. But I think it is something great about having these athletes, putting the athletes first.
Yeah.
And I just love to see that shit. I would love to see if Brian ended up putting on his league. He understands the sport better than other people do.
I would like to see Brian turn it into at least a 3 or 4 show series that built to the final classic. I think it would be really good, especially to have something like that here. Because you have Giants Live, but Giants Live typically over in the UK now, which is a great series. But we don't have that here. So for the athletes here to run 3 or 4 and kind of build into the top guys going to the classic, I think would be really cool to see. And kind of see it built back up. I had this conversation a couple years ago in Barcelona with Dion, and I understood the business wise, why it went this way, but ultimately I think it kind of hurt the sport a little bit, because you look back when we were doing pro-ams, we had 950 yokes at least, and everything was pretty heavy. The pro-ams were heavy. And that's what you knew going to pro. It was going to be a heavy show. And then if you look, a few years out of that, of that kind of 15, 16 era, they were doing 800-pound yokes. They dropped down. There was, guys that were turning pro off 800 yokes. And one of our guys, in particular, Brian Clark, he won a show off an 800 yoke. And then his next show is Giants Live that has a 1,000-pound yoke. And then he does America's Strongest Man with, and we had 1120. So you're throwing guys almost to the wolves, because they turned pro here, so they can't do any more amateur shows. So they can't really hone their skills anymore. But they've kind of topped out at a pro on a subpar level. So now they have a huge gap to make up.
100%. If you have pro-am shows that are light to qualify, you see that very few of those guys are able to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to get them prepared for that level. And also, I think that if Ryan or somebody like that was able to put on more shows in America, it's very challenging, I believe, for pro strongmen in America to stay at that high level when all the challenging shows are out of the country.
And it's almost impossible for them to get to.
But there's so many more outside the country.
Yeah.
It's tough for the guys.
Yeah, I really feel bad for, luckily, Brian's doing a great job now the last couple of years of having the open, so, guys got something to train for. And then, OSG is helped with that kind of that void too, because there really was a big void And I still kind of feel like there still a little bit is, because like you look back, like when I was coming up, you know, I got very lucky that there were some shows that were put on that put me to the next level. You know, I won, you know, Nick and Callie best put on. Sin City was a Giants Live qualifier. They put me to Giants Live Poland, then that put me to World's Strongest Man. You know, the Fit Expo was huge back then. We were competing. I mean, that was, you would go to the Fit Expo and there would be at least 8, 9 guys who just came off World's Strongest Man there. And then if you won the Fit Expo, that put you on the Arnold stage. That's what put me on the Arnold stage the first 2 years, you know. And then after that, then I got invited back. But like if it wasn't for those shows, like I wouldn't have had that break to really jump to that next level, you know. And
I believe like getting ready for that's one thing also that you don't see as much as, I remember for me, even before I competed in the Fit Expo, every year that the Fit Expo would come around, I would go down to Ode's house to go train. And you would see so many guys from all over the country or from different countries. And
yeah,
everybody was there to train together. And you had such a great vibe of everybody hungry in the country. Everybody's learning from each other and pushing each other in. And that fire we were bringing to each other. And the more big competitions in the U.S. we have, the more we have of us training together and the better we get together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we don't have that as a country, like we're not going to get as strong.
No. Yeah, we really, really need that to hone in those young athletes, you know, so they can, you know, build into that next level, you know, and have that opportunity to go showcase it. And you know, because I feel like a lot of guys, you know, if they're going to train to whatever level that they're going to compete at. You know, and I hate to pick on Brian, but Brian, because, you know, he had to push really hard, you know, Brian Clark, you know, when he turned pro in 800 yoke. So he had to work his ass off to bridge that gap, you know, and he did it, but he had to work his ass off. I mean, he was second to me on the yoke at ASM, you know, so he did it, but, you know, he had you know, it was a lot of work on his own to do that. You know, I think if he would have had heavier programs, he would have already been there, you know. He'd already been up to that level. You know, he wouldn't have had to bridge such a gap, you know. And I think a lot of athletes won't bridge that gap. You know, if they turn pro on a kind of a lower-end show, they're not going to push up to those heavy weights if they don't have to, you know. Like
exactly. So I think you have to have it in the mindset of your own. Like, this is where I want to go to, and I'm going to prepare myself for that level.
Yeah, because I always looked at every show I did from when I started, you know, started strongman. It was like, okay, I learned. I used this to learn. Okay, now I got to get stronger at that. You know, like I remember the first year when I started, I went to nationals in 08, and they had like an 850 yoke. And the most I had done before this, you know, like in the competition was 675. And I remember Pat and I were looking at it going, oh man, 850, oh shit. You know, I remember I wrapped my knees and it was the worst 60 feet of my life. But after I came back, I was like, all right, I got to get stronger. You know, I zeroed a 280 log there because I came from powerlifting. Overhead was, you know, horrible when I started strongman. You know, I was like, all right, I got to get stronger at this, you know, and everything I use is learning because I kept picking another show that was heavier. I got to keep growing, you know. And I think too many athletes get in like this comfort zone going, oh, I'm not ready yet, you know. Well, you'll never be ready unless you make yourself get ready, you know. Unless you throw yourselves to the wolves and just, you got to get your ass handed to you a couple times and you will make yourself get ready. I think too many guys are afraid to make that jump and go, I'm just going to go try it and see what happens. If I fail, I'm going to come back and work harder, you know.
Exactly. You gotta know that, like, everybody is touchable. There's nobody in this sport that is untouchable.
No.
Anybody could fucking lose. Anybody could fucking win if you're that fucking focused.
Yep.
Like my second show was a pro-am show, and that's how John had told me. It actually started our first group that kind of broke up over it. John had told me early on after I did my first show, which I didn't really train for it, so this is my first show training for it, was a pro-am. And so he wanted me to come at a certain time and not have half of our group to come in.
Yeah.
Because they would kind of like talk and make jokes and
There's
lap around
too
and all
much
that
distraction.
bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And so he told me to call him up and tell him not to come in that afternoon because we're going to be focused.
Yeah.
So I call him up and tell the guys, hey, John told me to tell you not to come in. Get ready for my show. So these punk motherfuckers call up John and we're like, hey, do you know what Ricky did? He told us not to come in. Is that what is he talking about? And John, like, this is John. He says no.
Yeah.
You're never coming back in if you're going to call up and say that shit. I was the one who told him to tell you that. And he kicked them all out the crew.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's less is more sometimes, brother.
I've had that before too. Like there's some guys just kind of got to give the gate, that if they're not there to better the crew and they're just kind of looking out for themselves, go somewhere else, because everyone I've always had around, I've been very fortunate to have great training partners over the years, and they're there to push each other, make each other better, because everyone that I've ever trained with has made me better over the years, and I've hoped that I've helped make them better, because that's the way I feel like it should be, you can't be selfish and just, being there for yourself. You got to be in it to make everybody, we're all getting better here. We're all going to go kill these shows.
You set the pace for our crew, there ain't no fucking around. This ain't like no internet shit, no fucking, other people could play around and have fun with that shit. We've always had to work for our shit, we've always had to grind. There's nothing funny about it,
Nothing's ever come easy, man. Nothing's ever come easy.
Iron Outlaws means everything to me. Like, it really fucking does.
Yeah.
It meant, with the first time I was given that Iron Outlaw shirt when we were outside doing that Conan's wheel, and I think we did like some super crazy some shit like that we were doing. And we went back inside your homeboy's house, and he poured us that beer and gave me that shirt off his back. That meant everything to me, brother.
Yeah.
Like, I represent that shit every motherfucking day, for real. I love this shit. I love it. I love every part of the team. I'm thankful every day. I want to help everybody I can. Like, it just means everything to me.
Yeah.
Sport means everything to me.
Yeah, man, I've really appreciated you over the years. You've always been there for me. Man, you've helped me in times that I've, been struggling. And you've inspired me over the years. You inspire Bubba now. What you do for Bubba, we appreciate. So you guys want to follow Ricky? Ricky has Instagram. Was it just Ricky Larocca? Your Instagram?
Yeah, Ricky Larocca, I don't really know what it is, but if you search my name,
we'll throw a link.
Like me, so.
We'll throw a link up to it. You also have a YouTube. And you also have, I want people to check out your documentary. Where can they watch your documentary at? That kind of touches more on like your injury, the disease, everything.
Yeah.
If not, we'll put a.
If you go to YouTube and if you go to YouTube and you search "No Pain Ricky Larocca," and they put it on YouTube now, so you can watch this little 30-minute documentary.
Yeah, you got to check this out because, like, he's talked about it, but to see firsthand a little bit of what he's went through is amazing. So go check that out. No Pain, Ricky Larocca, and like I said, check out that documentary they did because it shows more of a picture of what you've been through over the years. Because I know you're a humble guy and you're not a guy to cry and draw attention to yourself, but man, it's impressive what you've pushed through over the years.
Thank you. Man, I hope everybody looks out for Bubba. Watch Bubba smash his next show coming up, and team's going to do some big shit this year. We're going to do some big shit.
Yeah. All right, man. We appreciate your time. And again, we'll call it there, guys. Please like, follow, share. Thank you, bro. We appreciate you. All right, guys. Thank you.